Today we have Diane Dragon and myself talking about litigating literacy. Okay, so today you had an IEP meeting that apparently was quite contentious because we are an hour late in recording this episode. What would you like to say about that meeting?
There's so many things, but, client confidentiality keeps me from saying too deeply. But what I notice as a theme that is just frustrating for parents, it's frustrating for attorneys, it's got to be frustrating for some of the other people in the IEP meeting, is when straightforward questions asked by a parent, they're told, we're not going to answer your questions.
Can you give an example?
Sure. So parent asks a question about what type of, insert reading program, writing program, math program have you been utilizing with my child?
That seems reasonable.
Well, no, apparently it's not. So we spent a lot of time being told that they wouldn't be discussing that in an IEP meeting. We will not discuss with you programming or methodology or any of those things. We can have a separate meeting about programming and methodology.
But isn't it a parent's right to know what has been done with their child? They're not asking going forward. They're simply asking what has been done, what programming has been used. We are not allowed to have that information?
I think it goes back to horrific training, legal training of individuals again. So there is some case law out there that essentially says you don't have to discuss methodology in an IEP meeting unless the team decides that a specific methodology is necessary. And we don't need to dive too deep into that. But you don't have to discuss methodology of what you're going to use going forward. But what we were asking is, what have you been using? Because the kid wasn't making progress. We were trying to write new goals. What have you been using? And because someone tells them, we don't have to talk about methodology, they interpret that as, we don't have to tell you what we're doing every single day with your child in this school. And it was enraging for the parents to be told, we're not going to answer your questions. Let's move on.
That does not seem reasonable at all.
No.
I would hope that somebody could tell me what they've been doing with my child, specifically because in this particular case, they haven't been improving. So I would want to know. No, I would need to know what was done so that we wouldn't repeat it.
Well, and you have to know what's done so you know, hey, what might we have not been working on, etc. But no matter how many times I tried to come back at it and say, no, we're not asking what you're going to do tomorrow. We're asking what you did yesterday. And then apparently I was offensive because I said, look, if your answer is, I use a bunch of random strategies that I've pulled together based on my professional experience, then that's your answer. Or if it is, I've used a program and I'm just going to give it like Wilson or Spire or SIPS or something. Like, those are kind of your options to tell me. And because I said a bunch of random programs pulled together with your professional experience, I was told that I was insulting and demeaning, that it's not random. And I'm like, but how would we know? I just kept saying, how would we know? Because you won't tell us. And so we had this whole circle argument. And let me just be clear. We left the meeting with no idea what they were using for this kid.
How long did this meeting go on? This meeting went on for quite a while, did it not?
3 hours.
So what else did you discuss that a meeting could go on 3 hours and you cannot even get an answer as simple as that? It seems like a very simple answer. Here's what we had done so far. We had 2 sessions each week, 30 minutes each, and where we use Inspire, and that just doesn't appear to have had any good impact on them. Okay, thank you.
I mean, the reality is they're not using any sort of evidence-based program. They're not using any scope or sequence.
Well, we don't know, do we?
Well, we do know because they only get that defensive when they've got a hodgepodge of crap piled together for this kid.
In your experience.
Well, yes.
Yes.
But then it becomes games where, they talk about an assessment that they gave the student. I said, well, can I see it? Well, not today. But
Had the parents seen it?
No. Parents hadn't seen it. Parents didn't even know it was done until I started saying, but how did you get this score? And they said, we gave an assessment. And I said, does it have a name? It did have a name. And I said, can I see it? And they said, not today. How do you write a goal in an IEP based on an assessment that no one is allowed to see? And not only was I not allowed to see it, nobody on the team making the decision had seen it. And in fact, the person who gave the assessment wasn't invited. And when we asked to invite her, we were told no.
What other things did the parents find out that they didn't know?
I mean, it's every IEP meeting, especially when you have kids. I think the one that is most frustrating for parents, aside from reading, reading's always frustrating, but if you think about writing, okay, there's an output. You can see what a kid wrote, whether he typed it, whether he hand wrote it, whatever. And you'll come to one of these meetings and the team will say, he's met his goal, his writing goal by 75%. And then I'll say, what's that mean? Is he punctuating 75% of the time? Is he spelling correctly? Does the subject verb match? What is the 75%? And then you'll get an explanation well, he didn't answer the question correctly. He missed one part of the question, so he didn't answer it correctly. And I'm but that doesn't tell me about his writing ability. That tells me about his ability to reason. You wrote a writing goal for sentencing mechanics. And they're well, I mean, we have rubrics. And they write. And I say,
what are rubrics?
Fancy term for a breakdown. So maybe you get 5 points for your spelling. You get 5 points for capitalization. You get 5 points for answering, part one.
Are these readily known?
The concept of a rubric is known by kids. They know when I have to write this essay, it has to be 3 paragraphs, and it has to have a topic, sentence, etc. So the rubric has a breakdown of the skills expected.
Oh, I guess I was asking from a parent's perspective. I, as a parent, what would I know is inclusive in the reading rubric or the writing rubric?
Well, there's an assumption when you go into one of these meetings that because the teachers have seen the rubric and because the teachers have seen the writing sample, that we should simply accept that he's either making progress or he's not making progress. But every time I say, parents, have you seen this rubric? The answer is always no. And then, for instance, in one, they go, well, can't you get on his Google Drive? I'm but there's a big difference between me logging in as my child in their Google Drive and seeing a finished product after you've edited it, after it's run through Grammarly, after it's run through whatever else, versus what he's capable of doing. And so they don't want parents, I mean, maybe it's not that they don't want parents to know, but they surely are not providing information, and it is a faith-based IEP. So I just don't, faith-based may have worked when we were kids with our parents, where schools were, I think they were trusted more. I do. I think parents had a lot more trust in what was going on, or at least they questioned a lot less. I personally saw a big shift post-COVID with how much parents trusted teachers and what was going on in the school. And it's not even the teachers, it's what are they teaching?
So because of COVID, explain why you think that is because of COVID.
So COVID was a mass experiment of homeschooling for a lot of families. And it wasn't that I homeschooled and that I picked the curriculum. My child was supposed to log into the school and access their teacher and access their curriculum. But if anybody who had an elementary child, or like us, 5, during COVID, it's not, you couldn't just sit them and forget about it. Like, they were constantly asking questions. They needed to be redirected. Like, you were their aide, which meant you saw what was going on. And I think it was really eye-opening to see the content that was being presented. I know most for me was the middle school stuff, when I realized even our non-dyslexic kids couldn't write a basic essay. They couldn't write a short answer grammatically correct because it wasn't being taught. And I think that happened around the country. I remember talking to our oldest when she was taking an ACT prep course at school. And she's super bright. Writing has never been a trouble. She didn't have, any of those kind of learning disabilities. And she said they spent an entire hour trying to figure out how to use a comma and when a comma was appropriate in a sentence, because part of the ACT is the grammatical component, like making sure. And commas and semicolons, they hadn't ever been really taught how to use them. And she admitted nobody had actually labeled things adjectives and adverbs. So they had to teach a bunch of high school kids preparing for college what an adjective and an adverb was, because we weren't using parts of speech.
Where's that falling down? That seemed to me that was drilled into us in our schooling for at least our age group, certainly my age group.
I mean, I'm still traumatized with the picture of diagramming sentences on the board.
That's true.
And getting up there and the nouns and everything. Like, I hated that with a passion, being called up and doing that. But you know what? You hate it so much, you learn it because you don't want to be the fool standing at the board.
Right.
We're just not doing that anymore.
Heck, we used to have Saturday morning cartoons that had the conjunction junction. and Schoolhouse Rock that taught us probably more. It sounds like Schoolhouse Rock could teach our kids more than they're getting in middle school at this juncture.
It's frustrating, and I see, and maybe it's unfair because as an attorney, the parents that are coming to me are the ones who've already lost trust. Like, you don't come to an attorney if you trust the school system.
That's fair.
But the lack of trust becomes readily understandable when you sit in a meeting with teams who are evasive and refusing to answer basic questions, rather than, like, they didn't even say, let me pull some things together and I'll send you some samples. Like, that answer, although it wouldn't have helped me in the moment, it would have let me know that they're going to make an effort.
If, from a legal perspective, are they... How do I want to ask this question? Why do they have to be evasive? Why can't the school just simply say, here's what we've done, it hasn't worked. What should we try now? Is that too simplistic?
Well, by being evasive, they break down trust, okay? It makes the parents be very suspicious. It makes me be very suspicious.
Of course.
But the reality is, recent Supreme Court case law, this case called Andrew F., came out, and it actually said that schools have to provide a cogent and responsive explanation for their choices. Cogent and responsive.
It's pretty clear.
So, but you ask a question, and they don't want to give it. And whether that's because they don't have a cogent and responsive explanation, but that it's just not okay. So that is what I see in a lot of IEP meetings that I go to, is deflection and almost like, why offensive? Why would you ask me that? I'm a professional here teaching your kid. I know how I'm teaching him. Why do you need to know how I'm teaching him?
Got it. So they do not trust the parents, that the parents have the best interest for the kids. It's almost, I don't know why you would hide stuff, because if you're looking out for the best interest of the child, you would simply say, here's what I've been focusing on. Here's what I've been doing. And then if everybody gets together and says, well, it's not working for John Doe, we need to try something different, and here's here's why it's not working for John Doe, and here's what the data and the what's the exam they do, the neuroscience, independent.
The independent educational evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you take that and say, okay, look, here's what we've done. Let's take a look at that, what's called an IEE. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And say, okay, here's what we need to do differently. Isn't that what the IEP meeting is supposed to do?
The goal of an IEP meeting is to figure out what progress has the kid made, what deficits remain, and write goals, match those goals to services, and match the services to a number of minutes. Like, that's kind of the big picture.
That are cogent and
responsive to the child's individual needs.
Okay.
I mean,
that's the law.
The law, yes. Let me put it this way. I view my children as my greatest asset, and I'm entrusting my greatest asset to the school.
Okay.
Now, you, as a financial advisor, people trust their money to you.
Yes.
All right? Can you imagine a scenario where one of your clients gives you $1 million and you say, I got it handled. No need for you to know what I'm investing in. And they say, no, could I know? Like, is it making me money? And you say, no, it's fine. We're not going to talk about that today. Like,
yeah, I'm losing my license in about 5 minutes.
I mean, what person would continue working with you?
Zero.
Yes. If you're not going to tell a parent how you are educating their greatest asset.
The biggest complaint that when a client is coming on as a new client, one of the biggest complaints, we just had a meeting last week, my partner and I, and their biggest complaint was, I could never ask any questions. I felt stupid asking questions, and I never got the explanation of why we were doing what we're doing. I don't need to know the details. I just want to know why we're doing what we're doing. That's the biggest complaint that we get from clients that move from advisors. Either they're non-responsive or the same thing like that. So number one, I would lose my client. Number two, then if that client simply put a complaint that says that my advisor refused to tell me what we invested in and complained to the organization, now I have an official complaint on my record, and there's going to be some investigation there by the company. And that could stay on my record or it might not stay on my record, just depending on the findings. And then, if it's on the record, if it's unethical, I could potentially lose my designation as a certified financial planner and potentially put my licenses at risk. So I don't understand that.
I mean, I'm not certain what other profession can simply say, trust us with all of your taxpayer money and your children. But it is viewed as offensive to ask, well, what are you doing? How's that working? How did you choose that? What training do you have? My God, somebody asked what training someone had, and that was a whole nother, we're not going to get into that this meeting.
Even doctors who, I don't know if the doctor starts to get in about some type of knee replacement or knee surgery, I really don't know what he's talking about, but doctors still explain it and explain what goes on with a knee surgery and how the rehab's going to work and how your knee works, and they have the little things they bring out, the models and everything, but the teachers don't do that.
Well, even in a medical model, when you are making a major life decision, most doctors say, get a second opinion. I don't have any problem. Get a second opinion.
That's true.
This is what I would think. In public education, we don't get second opinions. You get what you get in the school district you live in, or you figure out how to move or pay for a private school. There is no second opinion in public education, and there is no second opinion for teachers. And when you question a teacher, it's seen as an attack instead of an honest, I just want to know. I don't understand how upset the profession gets when they're asked to explain their methodology, their, what they're doing with a student. But it's like seen as an insult to ask a teacher to explain what's going on.
I coach hockey, as you well know. And invariably, there'll be parents that are asking about their child. How come Jane Doe didn't get as much ice time or doesn't play in a certain situation? Or some parents are like, and players will be like, what could I be doing better? We sit down with them and we actually say, okay, let's take a look at this video. Here's why I can't put you on the power play, or why Susie Smith is on the power play versus Jane Doe. And then we explain that to them. Here are the things you need to improve upon. Here are some drills and some things you can do on your time. Here's some time during the ice that, why don't you come with me and I'll show you how to do that, and we'll start working on that so eventually you can get better. So there is more transparency and understanding and explanation. And this is not just me. This is many hockey coaches and many other sports. I'm sure the same thing. More so than education. And I don't take that as offensive if someone comes up to me and says, why is my child not playing? Why is this? Why did you do it that way? What's going on with Susie or Jane? Here, let's have a discussion, and I'll tell you exactly why, so you understand. So that way they can reinforce it when they watch their child. Then they're like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand that. That's why you're the coach. You see that. Yeah, it's a little bit different than from the lens of a parent. But the reality of the situation is that we're not getting this transparency. And you talk about trust. The immediate thing that I think of after that is then, where's the accountability? How can they be held accountable if we don't even know what they're doing?
And I mean, it's not uncommon for me to leave a meeting where, like I said, this was 3 hours. After 3 hours, I don't know what the general ed curriculum is in the English class. I don't know what the intervention programs are that they're offering tier 2. And I don't know a single lesson that this kid got through a 1-year IEP for the last year. And I've not seen a single writing sample. I've not seen a running record. Like, nothing is brought to the table but some numbers saying, 87%, 70%, 60%, with nothing. And the parents are treated as the enemy when they question. Explain that to me. And it baffles me. I don't know any other profession that gets away with taking one of our most valuable assets and refusing to tell us what they're doing with that asset of ours 6 hours a day.
So for 3 hours today, you had how many people in the IEP meeting?
Oh, I'm sure there was more than 15.
15 people in an IEP meeting for 3 hours. What is that waste? And you don't have to answer that, but it sounds like you had a waste of time. So now what? Do you have another IEP meeting, or are we talking you're going right to due process after this?
I mean, it could go in a variety of ways, but the fact that they say, there was an individual that they kept saying, well, that person who's not in the meeting is going to make that decision. And we're like, well, can we invite him to the meeting? No. When are they going to make the decision? Sometime in the next week. How will we know the decision? Well, we'll send you an email. Well, will we need a new IEP meeting? We don't know. So after 3 hours, you're still left with someone you've never met, who didn't sit in on the meeting, who didn't hear any of the concerns, will be making a life-changing decision about what intervention is going to be used for a child that they know nothing about. That's what 3 hours did, is it let us all just learn that some intervention, literacy, coach, specialist, whatever the school wants to call them, is going to swoop in. And let's be honest, it's not like they're going to swoop in and say, well, let's look at the 10 best interventions in the country and decide. No, they're going to say, we have training in 3. which one can we wedge into the number of minutes that you just gave this kid in their IEP? That's not exactly a cogent and responsive explanation as required by the law.
It does not sound like it. It does not sound like if I was a parent in this meeting, I would be happy with what appears to be a resolution or people moving on to a resolution, but I have no idea what that resolution is going to be.
And one of the dynamics in this meeting, and I'm interested in your opinion, having sat through some, a lot of the educational professionals are females, okay? And generally, the mom is the one who is handling most of the educational pieces.
That's correct.
And dads come to meetings, like you came to some meetings.
Yep.
How comfortable did you ever feel in that environment to be asking these hard questions or treat it like a business meeting and ask the kind of questions? How did you feel as a father in some of these meetings?
Guys, I hate to speak for all guys, but a lot of guys I know are simply going to be like, look, let's cut through the bullshit here, okay? Let's talk about the solutions. Let's talk about what you are required to do and why I am paying you with my tax dollars to do what's in the best interest of my child. But 3, you're not telling me a damn thing that you're doing to ensure that you have a fiduciary responsibility for my child and their education. Did that answer your question?
Yes, to some extent. I mean, here's the thing. Every kid has 2 parents, all right? Mm-hmm. And I get that families divide up and conquer, and women, they get more of the educational piece. I get that. But when you have a kid with a disability and you're going into one of these meetings and you're facing 10, 12, 15 other people, and it's only the mom speaking up. I think at this point in time, part of the reason why we have not seen significant changes in the special education landscape is if you look at like the pages that I run on social media, they're 95% or more women are the only ones that are reading these issues. They're the only ones that are dealing with these issues. And I think when we have a 5% male coming in and even acknowledging the issues within special ed, I think that it's a problem.
When I see this stuff happening, I mean, here we are. Okay, we're going to go into a meeting. And then I find out that these people are, I'm sorry, I'm going to use this term, okay, abusing my child. Because they're supposed to be following the law. They're supposed to be doing what's in the best interest of the child. And instead, my kid has got his head laid down on the damn desk crying all day. And nothing's being done to address what the hell the problem is. And I got to find that out. So there's a level of abuse right there that my child has, what would be the legal term for it? Pain and suffering.
Pain and suffering. Emotional distress.
Emotional distress caused by the school. What do you think my immediate reaction is going to be? My immediate reaction is this. Who is and it's not going to be a nice word, has done this? And then I'm going to have a very adult conversation with that individual. That's why we don't go to these meetings. That's why we don't get involved, because I'm pretty damn sure that there's more guys like me out there that have had enough of the nonsense. And when we take a look and we get the tax bill, the property tax bill, all these tax bills coming in, and they keep on going up, and we see Lindbergh spending $120 million on a remodel of a school. And we see all this money being spent, and then we see the results, which are half-ass. And I think that's being generous. We get angry.
Do you have any thoughts on how to get men more involved, because I think men call bullshit a lot sooner than women.
Yes, they
And
do.
I think that they do not back down. Like, you're going to get an answer, but if they say, I'm not going to tell you, you're not going to move on. Yeah.
I wouldn't have left the sentence. I would have said, no, you're going to get the information and give me an answer right fucking now. And we're not going on until then. And I said, well, we're going to have a new meeting then. Then good, fucking schedule it. Okay? And make sure you got that shit at the next meeting, because we ain't going anywhere else through the meeting until you answer that fucking question. That's the conversation that they're going to get from me. And then if they push back, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to push back 10 times harder. Now, your question is, how do you get men involved? Two ways, in my humble opinion. Okay? Number one, kids are being abused. Number one, the wife's being abused. And it sounds like in this meeting that the parents were abused. And certainly the kids are being abused because they're not getting the shit done. And then when it comes, you come back and you're upset as my wife, and you're upset after that one meeting, that infuriates me. And to a point where I can't be in those meetings, because then all of a sudden that triggers that self-defense mechanism. I view my job as protecting you and the kids. And when someone's fucking with you guys, they're going to get it. And that's the problem. Because I know I can't do that in society. I've got to be nice. And I have to be respectful. And I have to let the law, I have to let you do your job. And to do that. And that's why I haven't gotten in trouble. Because I'm like, I just can't do it. And I think that's why guys don't go. I think if guys knew that they were protected and could say what they wanted to say, I think we'd have some different meetings. We'd all get tossed out. We'd all get tossed out of a board meeting. If there was a board meeting and then you had the dads, and you had the pissed off dads that were like, you said what to my wife? You did what to my kid? If you had dads like that in a board meeting, all dads, they'd have a major problem. The cops would be there, and they'd be escorting us out. Because we wouldn't, hey, your 3 minutes is up. Hey, fuck that. Let him talk. I like what he's saying. He can have my 3 minutes. Let him go. Well, it doesn't work that way. Now it works that way now. And that's the kind of contention that you're going to get. I don't know that you want that. I don't know if it's going to further the purpose of fixing the system. It's just going to make the system more contentious.
I mean, I know that you and I have joked in the past about you're not going to go, and I say, well, I'd rather spend your bail money on the private tutoring,
correct,
etc. But look, I'm not condoning violence in any of these meetings, but the reality of the situation is nothing's changing. We are, 50 years into special education plus, and, we do have kids who are laying their head down crying, and we go to one of these meetings and we say, well, what are you going to do different? And they say, we're not going to tell you. Like, I'm not promoting violence, but I'm saying the fact that it is people that are just like, okay, like, I can't sue the way out of special education problems. There's not enough of us lawyers doing it. But these conversations and finding ways to call out the BS in these meetings. And the problem is also that the part we haven't talked about is how much do I as a mother go at a teacher or a principal or something when I'm sending my kid into that school every day?
Well, that's part of the problem too.
You're worried about retaliation. You're worried
100%.
about how are they going to treat your kid. You're worried about, are they going to pick on them, whether it's not giving them a part in a play or putting them at the end of the line whatever.
Which is why I can't go in there and do a scorched earth, and say what I really think and what I really feel. I mean, look, if my kid is crying, My initial question is, what did you do to them while they're crying? What the hell is going on in this school? Which immediately then they become defensive. They start, well, you cannot say that. You cannot do this, that, and the other thing. But the reality is, it's like, okay, then what the hell is going on? And you better give me a good explanation, or you and I are going to have some words. And that's why. I'm just telling you, ask the question, why? Why don't get involved with that stuff? Why don't go to the meetings? Because it would escalate very quickly. And I'm actually a calm and reasonable individual based on a lot of individuals that I know that would absolutely have zero filter and would probably risk being trespassed or arrested, which you've told me before I could get trespassed. So I can't say anything that I really want to say that really says you guys are walking a fine line and you better start making some better decisions, or we're going to have a major, major problem because there is no accountability. I can't stop paying my taxes. I can't effectuate votes for the board on a school board that absolutely disregards the parents and does not allow them to even address the school board only on agenda items nowadays. They've limited free speech. I cannot do anything except for walk a fine line and be quiet while I hire an attorney. And if not for you being an attorney, our kids would have never gotten anything. Ever.
So you actually didn't answer my question.
Probably not.
You didn't answer my question of how do we get more men involved. You made a bunch of excuses why men can't be involved because they're going to overreact.
You have to protect them from. You have to protect them and allow them to be able to say what they think and what they feel. If I knew I could say pretty much do whatever I wanted short of physical violence, yeah, I'll go. Because I'm going to swear. I'm going to throw an F-bomb in there because if I've gotten there at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night after working all day and doing all the other stuff, what kind of mood do you think I'm fucking in? I'm not in a good mood. Okay? And the fact that I got to be there and now I got to address these idiots up there that are unresponsive and have abused my wife and abused my kid, yeah, that's what you can do to get more men involved is protect them. Protect them from getting trespassed, protect them from getting tossed in jail, protect them so they can say exactly what they need to say in the manner in which they want to say it.
You must have some clients that you work with that you don't swear around, no matter what, or some business deals that it's not appropriate.
Only if they have said that. Majority of my clients, we absolutely have dialogue like that. Some of the best clients that I have, we have some contentious dialogue that is exactly like that with the males. Okay? I'm talking guys. All right? Absolutely. And it's some of the best conversations and the best because we throw it right out there and been like, okay, what the hell do we do? Why the F did we buy that thing? Or what did we do that for? Or what the hell's going on here? I don't understand this. And we get through it. Open, honest, and direct. That's what I tell all my clients. You can swear at me. Look, I was in the Marine Corps. I've been dressed down by the best in the world. Okay? And you can say anything to me. Anything in any manner you could say to me. You know what? Because I want to hear that. Because it's open, honest, and direct. And I want to hear that. So that then that way you can vent. And then you're like, okay, now let's get past that. Now let's talk reasonable about what we got to do. But you can't do that in an IEP meeting. They got to answer for what they did. Just like a criminal has to answer for breaking in a bank. And we're not allowed to do that, which I think is bullshit. You want to get men involved? That's what you got to fix. in my opinion.
One of the things that I have a lot of trouble tolerating, which seems to be accepted practice, is we go into these IEP meetings and the state has generated a form with boxes and little check marks.
What a joke that
so we
is.
have this little parent concerns box, and you can say your parent concerns here, but once you've said your parent
How many characters? About 37?
Once you've said your parent concerns here, like, that's done. We're not talking about parent concerns anymore. And now we want you to tell us about strengths. Like, I'm not feeling strengths right now for my kid. I'm not feeling it. I want to talk about, and then it's a box for how they did on the last goal, progress on goal. But the progress on goal is meaningless numbers with nothing to back it by. And when you ask a question about it, we already talked about this, it's, there's rubrics, there's things, let's move on.
Yeah, move on.
And so, like, everything has a box, but they're all, like, not necessarily related. And your concerns, when you start bringing them into, well, my concerns are he's still not reading, or my concerns he's still not writing. But they're giving you this BS progress on a goal. And then all the bureaucrats in the meeting want to do is write the next goal and assign it some minutes. Like, that's all they want to do. They want to write a goal and assign it minutes. Parents want to solve problems. A goal is not necessarily going to solve my problem. Writing a goal of my kid's going to read 20 CVC words with 80% accuracy at the end of a year, that's not really solving my child's reading problem. That's picking a teeny tiny metric that the school says they're going to work on. IEP meetings are not problem-solving meetings. And I think that is part of the reason why men don't end up going. Like, you are not box checkers by nature very well on some of this stuff. And
no, we want to get to the solutions. Like, okay, problem, my child's not reading. What's the best solution? We obviously have kids that have read. There's obviously a kid that is like my child that wasn't reading before and all of a sudden is reading now. What did that individual do? What are the best solutions out there that money can buy? And how do we implement them for my child? It's pretty bloody simple in our mind. But to your point, we got to go through a 3-hour meeting. I'm hearing some asshole dodge and deflect questions and worry about a 5-page, or how many pages was that stupid thing that we had to fill out every single IEP meeting?
I mean, they're like 30 pages.
Yes,
but
just of boxes and check marks. And, we don't want to hear that.
So let me point out what you said about what's the best. You know what happens when a father or even a mother asks, what's the best program available? Do you want to know what the school officials actually say?
Please.
We're not required to offer the best. We're required to offer an appropriate program for your child. And, there's a ridiculous case out there about Chevy versus Cadillac. Your kid's not entitled to the Cadillac. He's just entitled to Chevy. So we just want it to run. And schools, parents are like, what's the best? And whatever you decide is the best, you do some research and you say, can I have this? No, we don't offer that here. We're not required to offer that there. We're not actually required to even use the Good Enough program with Fidelity. It's insane that schools will look a parent in the face and say, we're actually not required to give the best.
48% of our kids can't drive, i.e. read. So it doesn't matter if it's a Chevy or a Cadillac. 48% don't even know how to fucking start the car.
And, yeah. But we've checked the boxes on the IEP and we've written a new goal.